Hello everybody, and welcome to part 2 of our all-new Chevy Equinox review. Now today's finally the day that we can get behind the wheel and show you what this Equinox drive experience is all about, so we can't wait to do that. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get in. Now, in this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a few different things, including what you see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our signature sound level reading, so you can see how quiet this new Equinox is. But first, we want to go ahead and start with a hard acceleration so you can see all of what the powertrain is about. All right, there we are, kind of taking off, going up to about 50 miles per hour. And in part 1 of the review, we went over the powertrain and the specs that you can expect to see, as well as, of course, all the other aspects of the vehicle. So if you want to see that stuff, make sure you go to part 1. But we'll recap with the powertrain specs first of all here. So what this has under the hood is a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Our total system power on board is going to be 175 horsepower. Now, the interesting thing is that for your torque figure, you are going to have two different ones. So you actually will have 184 pound-feet of torque if you get the front-wheel drive model, and then 203 pound-feet of torque if you get the all-wheel drive model, which is what we have today. Yeah, and I have to say, after spending the day with this Equinox, the power is pretty much acceptable for the segment. I mean, it's not going to knock your socks off or anything, especially with hybrid offerings from many of the competitors like the Toyota RAV4 and Honda CR-V. But overall, I think it feels perfectly fine for the average buyer in this segment, especially if you're choosing between a strictly gas alternative. And speaking of strictly gas, it is important to note that this Equinox does not have any type of hybrid variant. Of course, a lot of the main competition is going to make available a hybrid version. So this just is a straight 1.5 liter 4-cylinder. There's no other options that you can choose from. Unless, of course, that you want the Equinox EV, then you can get a full electric option. But that model is not really related to this at all. They share no parts or really styling or anything. Just the name only is really all that's shared. All right, that was me giving it the beans there. Yeah, definitely not going to be a class leader in terms of acceleration, but it's also not like brutally slow, because you do have enough torque that's really what gives you that feeling of acceleration, especially when you're going around town and not going full throttle. I think it feels totally fine. Yeah, now as far as the other aspect of the powertrain, that will be an 8-speed automatic transmission with this model. Like we said, we have the all-wheel drive version today. That's going to actually give you the 8-speed automatic. Now, I say all-wheel drive version because the front-wheel drive actually does get a different transmission. It's going to get a CVT instead. Chevy has done shift simulation, so that's something to keep in mind. They're trying to give you a little bit more of a traditional feel with the CVT. However, if you want a very traditional feel and nothing out of the ordinary, I would recommend picking the all-wheel drive version. That way you do have the 8-speed automatic. Now, we do also want to discuss your fuel economy because, like Drew said, there is not a hybrid offering on this Equinox. That does mean that we're only going to have two different fuel economies. You choose front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. The front-wheel drive option is going to be rated at 27 miles per gallon combined. The all-wheel drive option comes in at 26 mpg. Now, it's worth noting that is, okay fuel economy. It's going to lag behind several of the competitors, such as the Toyota RAV4 in its strictly gas version, as well as the CR-V in its gas version, a couple mpg behind. And I also want to point out, of course, if you're cross-shopping with a hybrid model, you're 10 to 12 miles per gallon combines worse. So keep in mind, you're going to be paying a little bit more at the pump for the Equinox, but that may be factored in later on when you talk about the pricing of this vehicle. And now let's discuss our slam dunk and airball. We'll start with the slam dunk. That's going to be the value proposition. This new Equinox really is giving you a lot more for the money than the previous model was. As a matter of fact, really the money part of it is no different than the old one, but you're getting so much more standard equipment, especially on the LT model, the base model, as well as the RS model. Is giving you a lot of things standard for a price tag that we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah. Now, on the airball side of things, which is our least favorite element about this new Equinox, what we're going to say is that for a top spec model like what we're sitting in today, an RS with all the options, the cabin is not as nice as we would want it to be, and it certainly is not as nice as some of the fully loaded rivals as well. For instance, this type of vinyl material up on the dashboard just doesn't feel all that nice and premium. We also have hard touch on a lot of the panels inside of the vehicle, so certainly keep in mind it's not going to like knock your socks off when it comes to the luxury experience. And let's go ahead and discuss the pricing for this new Equinox. Now, as far as this area is concerned, we're starting at about $28,000 for the LT model with front-wheel drive. Now, if you want to add all-wheel drive to any of the prices that I'm about to mention here, it will be an additional $2,000, but keep in mind that all-wheel drive does also sub out and get you a new transmission as well. Now, on the RS model, $33,000 is what you can expect as a starting point, and it's the same for the Active as well. You just kind of pick which one you want. Now, if you want all the options, you're going to be sitting around $40,000 fully loaded up, which is worth noting that's still less than a lot of the main rivals when it comes to fully loaded to fully loaded. So I think you do still even have a pretty good value quotient in the fully loaded version of this Equinox, but it's an especially good one on the lower end of the segment. And if you're looking to buy a Chevy Equinox or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, the reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description. We also have a pinned comment at the top of this video. And we're finally opening up here to the interstate portion of this drive. Now, I do want to just go ahead and preface this by saying we are on a media drive in Minneapolis, so we can't control exactly where we're at in all circumstances. So we are going to have to do, part of this review on the interstate, which is typically not what we would do. But as far as the ride quality is concerned with this Equinox, I have to say I've been quite impressed with it over the several hours that we've been behind the wheel of this model. When you hit a bump, it does a really good job of soaking it up and just really rides like a compact SUV should. The seats I find to also be quite comfortable, and as far as trim level differences, I will say that I feel like this RS maybe rides slightly worse than the Active trim level, but it's not a huge difference, even though we are going to have larger wheels on the outside.
Yeah, neither of these models are going to be sporty, so they didn't really, tune this to be super athletic or anything like that. So if you're wondering, is it going to have like harsh ride quality or anything like that? No. This is really just about the aesthetic appeal of having the RS. It does look really great on the outside, but as far as your driving dynamics, it's going to be very typical for the segment. A little bit of body roll, light steering, but nice and responsive. So overall, perfectly fine.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and get our sound level reading. That's something we do in all of our Car Confections reviews. I went ahead and put it on fan speed 1, and we are going 55 miles per hour. .5 decibels is what we are sitting at, going 55 miles per hour in the new Equinox. Now, I do want to point out, once again, we are in Minneapolis right now, so this is not our home official rating that we would normally do in Kentucky, so keep that in mind. The roads are a little bit louder here. Of course, we're on the interstate, so that's going to, of course, create a little bit more ambient noise around the cabin. But as far as how it rates against the competition, we can find that at carconfections.com/sound level readings, where we rate all of the cars that we review on this channel. Now, it's worth noting that sound level reading actually isn't too bad for the segment, especially considering all those special circumstances. We definitely look forward to having this new Equinox back home in Kentucky for a full week where we can get things like our official sound level reading and get you those numbers so you can know exactly how quiet this is going to be against the competition. And guys, that's where we're going to leave off on part 2 of our Equinox review. We do want to remind you once again that if you haven't checked out part 1, where we do all the exterior, interior walkarounds and all those things, go ahead and check that out. I'm sure you're going to be curious to know what this Equinox is giving you when it comes to features and whatnot. So you can find that video linked in the description down below. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for joining us for the first time. We'd encourage you to hit that subscribe button down below. If you're already a fan and subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. You make this all possible. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.